Excel now has Python. And in this video, I will show you exactly how you can use it for financial planning and analysis and finance in general. By the end of today, you will learn how you can uncover retention trends, analyze workforce data, and forecast revenue, all within Excel. And no, you do not need to spend months and months of learning Python. You can only reuse my code, and on top of that, at the end of this video, I will show you exactly how you can use artificial intelligence to get Python code that meets your needs. I am Christian Martinez, Senior Finance Transformation Manager and AI for Finance Professor, and someone that has been using Python and Excel for almost 10 years now. When I saw that Microsoft brought Python directly into Excel, I was super excited. And I want to show you exactly how you can use it. In this video, you will learn how you can uncover actionable insights using cohort analysis, how you can analyze workforce metrics with headcount analysis, how you can leverage machine learning for forecasting, and how you can build predictive models like linear regression. And yes, all within Excel. So let's start. Now, it's important to note that you need certain versions of Windows Excel in order to enable Python. You do need to have an enterprise or business Microsoft 365 subscription running the current channel, starting with version 2408, and in the monthly enterprise channel, starting with the version 2408 20216. Now, if you have a qualifying Microsoft 365 subscription, take the following steps to use Python in Excel. So you only need to open a new blank notebook, and then either you can select formulas in the ribbon and then go to Insert Python, and you will see that you have the PY enabled in there. Now the second way is in a blank Excel, you just need to type equal PY, open brackets, and again, this will be turned into a Python enabled cell. I will leave you the link in here for the Microsoft support if this doesn't work. It will be most likely because of your Microsoft subscription. Now, let's start doing our first analysis, the cohort analysis. Now, cohort analysis is an essential tool in order to understand customer retention trends. It can help finance and FP&A teams see how different groups of customers behave over time. Now, with Python and Excel, we can easily create a heat map like this in order to visualize these retention rates. The darker the color, the higher the retention. I have in here all of the codes that I'm using to generate this analysis. Now, don't worry if at first it looks complex. I'll be guiding you through each part. And on top of that, I'll be giving you this Excel file, so you can also just copy the code. Now, an important thing to note is the data that we will be using for this analysis. You will typically have things like date, customer IDs, the type of products that you have, and invoices values or sales values. Now, the first step that you need to do is to add this data into a Python data frame. Now, a Python data frame is basically just like a table in Excel. In order to do one, you need to start typing equal py, open brackets, and then you can either select the data that you have, for example, from here all the way below, and type Control Enter in order to commit the Python code. At first, the cell will appear with this item called busy, but then if it works, it will appear the words data frame, such as this one. Now it appears on the one that we just created as well. Now, if you want to name this data frame, like I did on the first cell, you only need to put the name that you want in front of the Excel. So for example, data underscore test equal Excel. And again, you need to do Control Enter in order to commit the cell. Now, I have already done this for us in this first cell. Now, the second part of the code is in order to actually create the analysis. Now, you can extend this in order to see the full code, and I will walk you through it. The first part that we're doing is importing the necessary libraries in order to do this analysis, like pandas, matplotlib, seaborn. Now, we're converting the date column to datetime format in order to avoid any errors, and then extracting the month of the first purchase for each customer to define cohorts. Now, it's important to note that in Python, everything that starts with a hashtag or a pound key, it's not code. It's basically just a comment in order for humans to read what Python is doing. Now, the next step is calculating the month difference between the purchase date and the cohort month in this part, and creating sort of a pivot table to count this number of unique customers in each cohort and generating a cohort index. Finally, we're calculating these retention rates by dividing each column by the first column. So it's in this part. And in order to create the visualization that I show here, I am plotting the retention rate heat map using matplotlib and seaborn. Now, all of this is fully customizable. So if you want to change the title, let's say, you can change it in this part. I name it Cohort Analysis Retention Rate, but you could add something else. Same thing with the X label and the Y label. On top of that, you can also change the palette of colors that you are using in order to do this heat map. Now, when you run this code, at first, it will appear just the word image on your Excel. What you need to do is right-click on that one, and then you can select Picture in Cell in here and create reference. When you do that, it will appear a reference to that particular cell like this. As you can see, I have already done it, and that's why the graph is appearing already. Now, with this code, in seconds, you can have actionable insights into how customer retention evolves over time. Again, for using this code, you can either just replace this data with your own dataset, or if you have a different dataset, then you need to modify a little bit of the code. But again, At the end of the video, I'll be showing you how you can use artificial intelligence in order to generate any type of Python code. But let's move to the second one, headcount analysis. Now, headcount analysis is vital for workforce planning. Either you are analyzing departmental growth or trying to identify imbalances, this Python code can help you visualize the trends that you have and use powerful statistical techniques in order to do your analysis. Again, the first thing that I want to explain is the data. So as for now, I have a synthetic data set of just different names, departments, like administration, logistics, maintenance, etc., positions or roles, salaries, and an increase decided for 2024. Now, the first step, similar to what we did in the cohort analysis, is to add this data into a pandas data frame. In order to do that, same thing, you can just do equal py, open brackets, and then select all of your data. So for example, like this, and type Control Enter. Now, I have already done that in here, and I was wanting to name this data frame headcount. So that's why I put headcount at the beginning. Now, below you can see two code of cells. One is to create this first visualization, and the second one, I wanted to show you how you can customize all of this, as I was mentioning. So I did a second one with different colors and slightly different type of font as well, like bold. Now, both codes work very similar. Let me open them for you, and I'll walk you through it. The first one, as you can see, is really simple. We are just starting by importing the library matplotlib that is for data visualization. And this library already has this box plot type of graph embedded on it. So in a very easy way, I'm just telling Python that I want to create this box plot with salary and by department in this case. So that's why you can see the administration, logistics, and so on. I don't want it to have a grid. So that is like in Excel that you have the grid lines. I don't want it. And I want this size. Then I'm using in here below this part of the code to add the labels. So the salary distribution by department, the X label and the Y label. So again, just department and salary that you can see here, salary and the word department. And then I'm just calling it PLT show in order to actually show the graph. Now, a very important thing is that similar to the previous graph, when you just run this code, it will appear the word image. So again, in order to actually have the visual, you need to right click and then picture in cell and create reference. And with that, the graph will appear. Now the second code looks a little bit more complicated because it's trying to use now Seaborn library as well in order to customize the graphic. As it says here, it's using this Seaborn in order to improve the style, and I'm using this color palette. Now, there are multiple color palettes on Seaborn that you can use, but in this case, I wanted these shades of blue. Now, on top of that, I also wanted the X labels to be rotated a little bit. And I also wanted to have the title, as you can see, with a little bit more of boldness. So that's why I put font weight bold in here for the title. Now, this is just to show you that you can customize every part of the graphs with Python. I'm going to be doing other videos exactly on what you can customize on all types of graphs as well. But now, let's go and explore forecasting with machine learning. Now, I know that forecasting is one of the most critical tasks in FP&A. And by using Python's machine learning libraries, we can create models that can predict future revenues based on historical data. So once again, this is the data set, and I have months, so a date, new customers, churn customers, and revenue, salaries, etc., etc. First step, similar to what we did on the previous two analyses, is to show Python how our data looks like. And then I am using, in this case, just df for data frame and selecting again everything with the Python formula Excel. Then, similar to the previous analysis, I'm using this part of the code in order to do now two things. The first one is to create the actual forecasting model. And then the second one is to visualizing and plotting the results in this type of graph. Now for that, the first step, as always, is to import different libraries. So I want to show you that in here, I'm using pandas, scikit-learn, and then matplotlib and numpy as well. Now the first part of the code, it's basically selecting which features I want to use for prediction and what I want to predict. In this case, I wanted to predict total revenue. Then I'm dividing my dataset into what is called training and testing datasets. In this case, I want to create a linear regression model. So I'm asking it that the model will be linear regression, and I'm predicting total revenue on the test set. Then I'm using this part of the code in order to forecast for the next 6 months, and using the previous values in order to predict this future. Finally, I'm combining here the actual and the forecast data for visualization and plotting the results. And what I wanted to show you is that in the graphic, we have again in blue the actual total revenue, that are the actuals, and in orange the forecasted total revenue. Now, similar to the other analysis, you can reuse this code by simply inputting your real data into this part of the Excel. Now, let's look at one last example before I show you how you can also generate any type of code using artificial intelligence. Now, my last one is predictive modeling, also with linear regression. In here, my dataset looks quite simple. So just month, marketing spends, economic growth, and sales revenue. Similar thing to what we are doing. The first step is just to pass the data into what I'm calling now linear regression by using the XL formula of Python in here, of Python in Excel. And then in this part of the code that you can expand by dragging this area, I'm doing similar things than in the previous forecasting example in order to first create the model and then visualizing, in this case, the actual and the predicted sales revenue. Now, this first part of the code is basically this first part in here. And then I have another image in there, which is basically this part of the code, where I was at first forecasting the next 6 months. similarly to what we did in the previous example. But on top of that, I wanted to also plot different graphs to show marketing spend and sales revenue, and also economic growth and sales revenue. And that's why we have these two graphs as well in here. Now, it's important to note that all of these are images, and again, they are from here. So similar to the other ones, you need to right click and then picture and cell and create reference in order for the actual image to be shown. Now, right now, I want to show you how you can use an AI tool or LLM like ChatGPT in order to generate Python code on demand. In this case, I'm going to be using ChatGPT, but this also works with Microsoft Copilot or Google Gemini, for example. Now, as you can see, I'm telling ChatGPT that I want it to generate Python code to create a box plot for salary by department. And I'm telling it that I'm using Python in Excel. Now, this second part is really important. I'm telling it that my data is in a data frame called headcount because, as you might recall in this part of the video, we already did pass this data into a data frame that we are calling headcount. This you can modify both of your data and also the names if you wish. Now, the second important part is that you need to copy a couple of lines and the column names of your actual data, and this can be dummy data. It doesn't need to be your actual data set. But in this case, I will just put the actual data. And I'm telling ChatGPT that my data looks like this. So I paste the data set. So let me just copy it again. I'm going to be pasting it here. And it looks like this, but ChatGPT is understanding that this is the dataset. Now, I recommend to remove just this file, the image, because normally it works better like that. And then you just send the message to ChatGPT. Now, in here, you will get the code that will look very, very similar to what I have give you in here already. So then you just need to copy this code by clicking copy. And then if you go back to Excel, now we already have our data in the data frame. So we just need to type equal py, open the brackets, and type the code in there. Now, as I mentioned in the middle part of the video, everything with hashtag before is a comment. So that part, it doesn't really matter. What matters is the part that doesn't have hashtags. Now, in here, we just need to do Control Enter to commit. And as I was mentioning, at first, it will show like a busy cell in here. And then if it works, then it will show the word image like it did right now. I'll then go to right click, picture in cell, and create the reference in order to show the visualization. And now we have our chart made by artificial intelligence. Now remember that you can customize certain elements of this chart, like I did in here. You will just need to tell ChatGPT or your LLM that you would want to customize that part. Thanks so much for watching this video, and remember that with Python in Excel, FP&A teams can achieve more than ever. Whether it's analyzing customer behavior, optimizing workforce planning, or even forecasting the future, you can use Python in Excel in order to do all of this. Now, if this video helped you, please hit subscribe and give it a thumbs up. And I will see you in the next video.